Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new show I'd like to call Ask the Old Man. My name is Ben Rivera, and I decided to come up with this type of podcast because, um, like many of us, especially those who have the opportunity to, we like to have conversations with our parents. Quite often, I find myself at least once a week on the phone with my dad talking about all sorts of stuff. A lot of times, we're catching up, but most of the time, I would say that we're talking about what's going on in the world. And a lot of times, I ask him, what was his perspective on what's going on? And he sometimes would share a story about his own reflection when he was growing up and how he was perceiving the world with similar situations. So, what better way to kind of share that message than to start a podcast together and kind of bring you guys into our conversation? The whole goal is to hopefully see you guys reach out to your parents, maybe ask some of the same questions that we talk about, and then drop us a comment and see if you guys have a different perspective. Because guess what? The United States, it's a vast nation with all sorts of cultures. So we want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that. But without further ado, we're going to bring the old man himself in here. Dad, welcome. Can you see
Hey,
me? Can you hear me?
I see you there, Mr. Benjamin.
How are you?
I'm better than I deserve. I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Oh, glad to hear that. Well, thank you for doing this. I think this was a fantastic idea that you brought up and we discussed, and I look forward to seeing what other people are thinking about because we've talked about a lot of various things politically,
Hmm.
entertainment, family, and it's gone really in depth. So I can't wait to share
Yeah.
this with everyone else.
Yeah. Well, I love our talks, and hopefully somebody can get a benefit out of it. Sure.
Real quick, if you just want to take a few seconds, just introduce yourself, just so that everyone gets to know you, other than my dad.
I'm I'm Ben's dad, as that's how the little leaguers called me. Uh, and Mikey's dad and all that. Yeah, I'm just a retired grandpa out in the woods here in West Virginia, and my wife Yolanda and I are running a flight school and enjoying the transition from full time work to retirement, business, that kind of thing, and looking at the world and shaking my head like a whole lot of other people. So, what you got? What's been on your mind?
Well, so I've shared with you that I have been diving into a lot of the social media arenas, trying to get into political discussions, cultural discussions.
Hmm.
Sometimes I'm in live, debates. Not that it's anything crazy, but what I'm basically trying to do is get a gauge of the world around me. And a lot of people that are in this kind of environment are from all walks of life. So it kind of helps me give a different perspective. So one of the biggest things that I've been hearing a lot lately is I have a hard time understanding, even for myself, what the American dream is, because a lot of people keep, they spit out their own thought, their own definition of that, and
Uh,
it almost like it's evolving. And then at some points, I'm sitting there thinking like it's almost like a mark is being missed in the definition. Like we're all these people are just encompassed around what it actually is. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but let me
sure.
start off by saying that my personal definition,
Hmm.
from how I view it, would be I've always been informed or brought up to believe that the American dream is it's a person of this nation, a citizen endowed with rights to move at liberty, to make decisions that only increase their status in the world, and they can do that without excessive limitations, on their sovereignty, that they can actually decide um, to sit down, start a family, grow as a person, grow the next generation, and to make the next generation just a little bit better than their own. I can go more into that, but you know, I recall a lot of our conversations, and I don't think you've really kind of just said, "Hey, Ben, this is what I think." So, could you tell me what you think, and has that changed since you were a kid growing up?
Yeah, the American dream is one of those things that you know it when you see it. And so I share the what's called the traditional American dream, which all the things that you had talked about comes under the umbrella of freedom. American freedom is something unique in the world. So understand when America came together out of the revolution, there was no freer citizen of a nation than an American. Um, Everybody came from monarchies. There was a couple of republics out there, but they were really monarchies with parliaments, legislators. Um, so the idea that a citizen was his own sovereign and can be at liberty to go about the land how he saw fit, so long as he didn't hurt his neighbor or his neighbor's property, was a new concept. And the American dream is about living on your own land as the man of his castle. That's what it was in 1776 and beyond, because that was a foreign concept to most people. Everybody had somebody's thumb on them. So it's about freedom, and that was your grandfather's American dream when he came to this country in 1950. He wanted to work, have the freedom to work, to buy his own land and raise his family on. And that's it in a nutshell, because it takes all those other things that you'd mentioned to get that, and you make your own decisions. The world is a land of renters, and the idea of owning your own piece of land and raising your family, being the head of your castle, was a foreign concept. That's why we people flooded our shores here, and really looked to America um, for the place to do those things. So, freedom, liberty.
Sorry, we seem to be having a little technical difficulties. 1 second.
Sure. Yeah. We'll plug in the out button to the in button. Oh, that's what your grandfather wanted, and when he bought his house out in Long Island, this would have been 1971, I believe it was. We didn't move into 72, but that's what he wanted.
Right. And so what is it that you think that people now that you've gone through your life here, what is it that you think that people seem to be really missing about what you described about the American dream? Because it seems like people want to have like or maybe let me rephrase that. People want to uh have that ability to live out that definition, but it's almost like a level of complacency has settled into the the world here in our nation, that it's almost like, well, things are rough. A little bit of help here, a little bit of help here, and then now it's like we've reduced it where we used to actually celebrate somebody working really hard. So, like, what do you think people are missing right now?
Wow, great question. For me, from my perspective, I look at the lack of respect for what it means to be an American, to be free. We don't have. I grew up in the 60s, 70s of the threat of the Soviet Union, the evil empire, the communism, and the threat, nuclear annihilation. And so that was kind of a cloud that was always hanging. So there was always a threat of losing your liberty. And so it used to be taught. I don't see it being taught. I don't see it handed down from family member to next generation very much. I see even less of it in school curriculums when I talk to students here and there or relatives and they're in school and they talk about American history. The being at liberty is not talked about. It's people don't understand what that means because their liberty is never threatened unless they get pulled over for speeding or something. Then they oh well, I got stopped. And so what you see and you see on social media so often, if you really want to waste an hour of your day, you can find 1,001 videos of people losing over their mind over the fact that were they did something wrong and were held accountable for that. And that's what's missing is the accountability of freedom. Freedom requires your responsibility to protect it, to teach it, pass it on, and protect it. And I think it was Reagan said that losing liberty is just losing your freedom is just one generation away. And it takes an active society participating in the renewing of liberty. And I don't see that uh, happening much. It happens in small pockets. I don't see it. People are not taught to be American. People are not taught baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and Chevrolet. They were the criticism of Obama during when he was running for president. Was he born here or not? As I taught, as I talked to Grandpa about it, I could care less where he was born. He's not an American. He doesn't bleed red, white, and blue. He finds fault in our system. Oh, well, he knows Al Green and he can shoot a basketball. People around the world know Al Green and can shoot a basketball. What makes you American is your love of liberty. It's your knee-jerk reaction when I talked to Jolie about this a few months ago. When people say here in America, "Hey, you've got to do this. The government said you got to do this." Our natural reaction is saying to the government, "No, we don't. We're Americans. We don't do that. You got to sell me the idea. Why do I have to do it? You got to explain yourself." Our natural DNA and our culture is we're free. We do what we want. I live here in West Virginia. The state motto is Mountaineers are always free. And freedom is not explained. It's not taught. It's not explained how you can lose it, how you do lose it on a daily basis, and administratively through contracts, economic freedom, and so the politicians know that. And so they take advantage of a very ignorant population, and even by people who claim to be so-called conservatives or libertarians, they're clueless when you actually poke and prod. When I do, how does that work? How does what you're saying work? They don't know because they weren't taught. They're not bad people. They're not evil people. They want to know. They kind of believe in the idea, but they still don't know the mechanics of freedom. And your dad went traveling in the Air Force in the 80s, and I went to countries that did not have the freedoms we had, didn't have the freedom of opportunities. And so a lot of people just take it for granted. It's not even a concept. You had to teach the concept. I was taught the concept. I was taught the mechanics on how it works. Now it's not even something people talk about.
So to that though, Dad. So
Sure.
So I got two questions for that. One
Okay.
kind of setting this up. Do you think that in this, I almost think of it as like a chicken and the egg concept. Like, what do you think started first? The people as a society, the American citizens becoming complacent, or the start of the propaganda that would teach people otherwise, because we know it's out there. There's it's in movies, it's on the news, it's in books, it's with their own politicians, that you can look through our history and start to see where people began to interject their own thoughts on whatever the case of the day was, politically or culturally. So where do you what do you think kind of started? Do you think people became more complacent because of how we are in the US, or do you think we started that way because of like propaganda or something?
Well, I'm going to
Maybe.
say this, and yeah, it's actually a little bit both, but I'll give you the chicken because this happens to every country and every system of government and in recorded history. So in America, I and some authors point to the when the last of the founding fathers passed away, the power hungry bureaucrats and politicos found ways to empower themselves in government to lord over us. Remember, the Declaration of Independence says that we have X amount of rights, which are basically infinity because we reserve all our rights.
Right.
Okay. And then that the government is there, is set up as an institution to protect those rights. And so we have government today in city, county, state, federal that lords over us, tells us what to do, you know. And so we went from negative liberties against the government, limiting government, to government limiting the people. And that happened pretty much when the last of the founding fathers um, passed away, because they were the ones that were actually keeping a check on the governments of the 1820s and 1830s and 1840s, because they were passing away. And when the last ones passed, there was nobody to say, well, Thomas Jefferson said this. And well, we have all their writings. But if that's not Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and George Washington's writings are not being passed on in the context of their day,
Right.
because that's how you got to take it. What were they looking to create? You know, and they were looking to create a form of government where the people at the most local level figure out how they want to govern their lives. And today we have bureaucracies that lord over us and tell us, when I was building this cabin, I can only buy a 1.3 gallon toilet, federally regulated.
Right.
My
Right.
toilet, you know. So the lunacy goes pretty far, but it's arguable. But I would say that most of the authors I've read about in history books say that's when it happened. And then, like any good politician, they'll create the boogeyman, they'll create the circumstance and say, you got to give me more power because, you know, famously made popular by Rahm Emanuel, never let a good crisis go to waste.
Sure.
And so fear is a motivator. And if you scare the population enough, they will do whatever you want. Look what happened in COVID in your lifetime. Okay. So the big fear when I was growing up was the Red Scare, communism, and it was palpable because it was out there. You can see it on the news. You can read about it. You see it in the newspapers. It was everywhere. The Soviet Union, this, Soviet Union, that. And then COVID, you found out that there was two politicians, two groups. You know, there was a group of politicians that said, hey, be safe, wash your hands, do what you got to do. Please stay inside whenever you can, you know, asking the population to self-regulate. And then there was governors, cities, mayors, county officials that said, no, you got to do this. You got to stay locked in. You got to, you know, can't see grandma and all that other stuff. So
Right.
those were all fear. they were all manipulations of fear, and that's the history of the world. That's
It's
history.
almost it's almost like the fear, because like you kind of gave a just a somewhat of a quick look at how we started as a country. Of course there was fear.
Hmm.
Um, but I kind of perceive that differently, because they were dealing with real change. Their lives were on the line, society was on the line, a future was on the line, and a massive change in status quo. And I would highlight status quo because for them, they were looking for a complete alternative, which would then reshape how the population functions. And then you leave that, like you said, when the founders had passed, you leave that, and I think the fear is we've become so entrenched in the status quo. Things feel normal because, I mean, let's be honest, like we don't get things that come to our shores that are looking to overthrow us, you know. We're we're not sleeping with one eye open as a nation.
Right.
Um and I say that, of course, we all have our individual problems within our country,
Hmm.
but taking a step back, I think the fear comes from a disturbance of the our own status quo, and that's what people kind of jump on. It's like, oh, this is shaky. Oh, you want to stop the shaking? You got to let me do X, Y, and Z. And I think that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Would you agree to that kind of analogy there?
Yeah, we've solved so many problems that we're inventing problems in order to solve, and there's there's no better generation to grow up in as far as not having problems to resolve than the current one. So a lot of stuff is invented or is minor and it's exploited for, to divide people, and then you conquer them politically. Old Machiavellian 101, you know. So if you don't have something to scare the people with, then you come up with something. That you got to have a boogeyman.
Right.
And this is the history. You look at all the histories, all the countries, especially Western European countries where we have tons of written history. Um, uh, the Khans, the Sun Tzu, you got to create issues for people in order to wake them up. And that's always been the problems of people that are liberty minded is they're so busy busting their butt working their jobs and businesses that they don't see the theft of their liberty because they're not actively participating. They're busy working. Who's the street protester today? You know, if they have a job, they got excused from the job. Teachers from school,
Right.
union workers. When I was IBEW union, we were given times off for union business, but it was to go protest the company. It was a rent a mob,
Right.
which I never participated in. I thought that was lunacy, but you know, but that's what's required is that you don't notice the lunacy. So think
Sure.
about it. I was IB union, and we were telling the company respect our contract. The managers had a contract, and they had to honor their contract with the company,
Sure.
but we didn't have to respect theirs.
Mm.
So there's a divergence in reality here, and
Right.
it's like, look, just because I joined the union, I didn't take my brain out of my skull and throw it in the trash,
Right.
but people join tribes, people join groups, and they fear the loss, and that's manipulated. Well, if they don't, the company doesn't do this, you're going to lose this benefit, you're going to lose this benefit, you're going to lose this benefit, lose. Oh, the company moved to Mexico. Well, now we all lost our benefits.
Right.
So yeah, it's everybody. Everybody serves their self interest,
Right.
every group serves their group self-interest. And so you got to have the boogeyman, and you see it. They're going to take this away from you. They're trying to do this to you. Some of it is true, some of it isn't true. Some is made up, which is what we're talking about now. A lot of
Sure.
it's made up.
Right. So one of the things that, and it blows my mind when I'm in these social media, different platforms. And by the way, when I say that, for those watching, it's mostly Facebook, me commenting on people's opinions, and a lot of TikTok live. It can be a cesspool, I know, but I go where people are
Sure.
congregating and discussing. So
Yeah.
and the craziest thing that I keep hearing, it wasn't just one person, Dad. So we'll talk about other subjects of what they were referring to, but just to kind of give you the breakdown, we were discussing oh, that's right, the Somali issues. We were in Minnesota and
Mm.
Ohio, Haitians, and we got people getting upset about the largest percentage of our immigration is from Hispanic cultures, but we're talking about all these different subjects, and then when somebody goes to make an opposition to the pro immigration, so they're against immigration, they'll call on, well, people are coming in here and they're not assimilating. I
Hmm.
feel like that word isn't used anymore.
Mm.
And then they're yeah, and then they also say, well, they're not participating in the American culture. So they use assimilate, or they bounce with that synonymously and say falling into the American culture. And not just one person, many people, Dad, just get all snobby. America doesn't have a culture. And I'm like, and I'm like, so okay. What I've really wanted to get you to kind of explain to everyone, in your perspective,
Okay.
you grew up
Uh-huh.
in New York. You were in the boroughs of New York. So
Brooklyn, New York.
you got to see a lot of cultures.
Yes.
And this was 60s, 70s, correct?
Yes.
And then you had a small stint in West Virginia. That's how you know
Yes.
about West Virginia, where you're living now. So you've got to see a lot of different cultures.
Hmm.
Was it understood? Now take yourself back to, let's say, 10, 15 years old, right?
Oh
You're
man, yeah.
I know we're going there. Was it understood? Like, if we got back in the time machine, went back to Joe Rivera, 10, 15 years old, and we followed you around where you were walking, and we would just ask people what the American culture was, not the
Hmm.
American dream. We're talking about the American culture.
Hmm.
Could could they spit it out? Would you have a large percentage of people going, yeah, it's boom?
Okay, so yeah, the American culture in New York City can be summed up. I would sum it up. My From my perspective, growing up where I did, how I did, was that you had to hustle. It was all about hustle because New York City is such a rough and tumble town, and you had to make it. You had to put food on the table. You had to put clothes on your back, and so everybody had a hustle, had a hustle, and had to hustle. And it didn't matter if it was in the Puerto Rican district, the black district, the Jewish, Italians, Irish. Everybody was hustling. Everybody was working. Okay, so the culture was in the city. Everybody's got an angle. Everybody's doing something. Okay, and so it was in Brooklyn, especially. It was in different languages often.
Right, right.
Okay, and everybody spoke a form of broken English.
Fair enough.
So so the culture was that, but it was just understood everybody's trying to make it. And that was the culture. So, and that's how you measured yourself within that culture.
Mm,
It's very materialistic, it's very money oriented, statusy, okay? Because that's the only way you can make it in that environment at that time. Because
right.
there was very little of a safety net. If you couldn't make it, a lot of people talk about how many people emigrated here legally. A lot of people went back.
Is this in your
N-
uh
No,
your
that's
childhood we're talking about?
statistically speaking.
Okay.
Okay, if you look at the records, if you talk anecdotally to people, yeah, a
Sure.
lot of people came over and went through Brooklyn. Brooklyn was the gateway to America. You came in Ellis Island, you hopped over to Brooklyn, you hooked up with a family member or somebody, a jobber, somebody you already hooked up with for job and work, and they farmed you out to someplace in Pennsylvania. You stayed in Brooklyn at a factory, or you went to Jersey at a factory. You had a plan. You were going to hook up with somebody or something. Okay, some people. There was a group of, for lack of a better phrase, I just call them gypsies. They came to America and they didn't know what they're going to
Right.
find, and and
Right.
God bless them. These people would leave 3, 4, 5,000 mile journey to an unknown place, unknown language, um, and looking for that dream, right? So there is a culture back then growing up, and I grew up at the phase where you can start seeing that being phased out.
Okay.
And we and the society and the professors in the university call it multiculturalism, because
Gotcha.
America was born of a number of different cultures,
Right. Of course.
and some of them were pretty close societies. And they came here either religious or their home culture, Norwegian, Swedish, Swiss, German. There's a reason there's a term called Pennsylvania Dutch.
Right.
Okay, so well, my foster father was Pennsylvania Dutch, and so there was a distinct culture
Right.
within the larger culture as everybody was hustling to make it. So for me, my word or phrase would be the culture is you hustle, because if you don't, you starve, you go hungry.
Right. And so you pointed out something there about multiculturalism, and that's when I hear those who are like doing the screeching, we don't have an American culture here. It was my understanding, and it goes along with, I believe, with how you were describing it, which is um it was okay that you had a Hispanic culture, a Chinese culture, a Japanese culture, an Irish culture, an Italian culture, but it it was like an additive. It wasn't so much like um we were expecting you to just drop what you knew. By all means come here because we appreciate what your culture has to offer. Food, music, societal norms to an extent. we
Yeah.
wanted, we appreciated the influence, but it all seemed to have fell under the umbrella of what you were saying, the American culture, that no matter where you were coming from, you came here to hustle, to work hard, um, to be appreciative of that opportunity,
Yep.
and to encourage those to pursue the hard work.
Mhm.
Because I think that kind of tied into what I said at the beginning was it then translated to the next generation.
Well, yeah, it
But
it, it
yeah,
did.
it used to. It
However,
seemed like.
well, yeah, there was a break. That's what stopped. The adults, okay, fear.
Sure.
feared losing what they had. They hustled for X. I've got this box, I've got this property, I've got this business, and they don't want to lose it. So the natural human fear is, well, we got an influx of Puerto Ricans, we got an influx of Dominicans, Haitians, Jews from Romania that were expelled. We got an influx, and so we don't want to lose what we got.
Right.
Okay, and that's normal. That's all across. That's our humanity. I'm not saying it's right, but that's our humanity. The new kids on the block are going to take away what I have. Okay.
Sure.
Now I tell you where it disappeared was the classroom. We didn't care. Kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grade, fifth grade. We didn't care. We all had different weird last names, couldn't pronounce.
Right.
A lot of us spoke broken English. I spoke English, Spanish, Puerto Rican, New Yorican, all mismatch of words, street
Right.
words that I didn't know. It's just what we say. I didn't know it
Right.
was a made up word. So these things happen in different levels of society, and the people in finance and business or politics, they know that. And that's where the manipulation happens. That's where the funny business behind the curtain starts. And it's the adults in the room. They're like, okay, we'll get these Puerto Ricans, they'll work for $1 an hour or whatever, and they won't, in the garment district.
No, expand on that though, like in the classroom, because like I can imagine somebody hearing you say that and they're like, well, that doesn't make sense because we've had, integration, from the 60s onward, and we were championing the as you put it, the multiculturalism of the classrooms and businesses and stuff like that. So I can already hear somebody going, well, Joe, you're not making any sense. Like
Right.
what are you talking about? So
It doesn't make sense. So think about this. This is what I talk about. This is the lunacy of these worlds. Okay. And the politicians know this. It doesn't make sense. You put us together into one melting pot, and then multiculturalism is saying, no, stay in your own pot. But
okay, I see what you're saying.
No, your grandfather told me that I was going to master the English language when he signed me into PS 168, because language was critical to assimilation. Okay. He didn't want to hear the accent, the Hispanic accent. Joe, know what I mean? Okay.
And just for clarification, Grandpa, he was born on the island of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And how old was he when he moved over to this?
18 years old.
18 years old.
1950.
Okay. Well, we're gonna come back to that. So we're gonna put a pin in Puerto Rico,
okay,
because I think you know where we might be going with this. But so Grandpa's telling you master the English language because it was important that what would you say? How would you finish that sentence? It was important
to my future.
Okay.
He came to America to be an American. Now, sure, he held on to a lot of the cultural stuff because it was easy. It's what he knew. He played the guitar, spoke. He bought the Spanish language newspaper and the magazines and the music, but he learned English. He was self-taught, only went to 8th grade, and learned everything reading books. And so he instilled that in us, that, hey, way up is through education and hard work. Okay. And you took that into a job or a business. And if I didn't go, his belief was, if I went to a job application or to start a business and I wanted to talk to somebody, he didn't want my accent to hurt my chances, like he felt it did him, because his language, his language is like everybody else was made fun of. Look at the Puerto Rican, I say 3 words in English, and people would talk about him, and he would know they were talking about him and laughing at him. So pride, ego can get into that, right? And so we had to learn English, all of us.
Mm.
And then multiculturalism comes in and says, "Oh, you're Spanish? Don't speak Spanish. Oh, you're Romanian? Continue speaking Romanian. You speak Yiddish? Great. Stay speaking Yiddish." Well, language is critical to assimilation if you're coming from a foreign country. Uh, how you communicate, everything is communication. That's foundational. And so with multiculturalism, English became what they called a second language. And so that's when you saw the disintegration of the classroom uh, in the manner which they taught to be an American.
Sure.
Then all of a sudden, being American, knowing English was not important to be an American. And so the word American was being redefined through the back door. Nobody came through the front door saying, "Hey, we're going to redefine what it means to be an American." We're going to come through the back door and say, "Hey, keep your culture, keep your language, keep what." Well, now people have bifurcated or worse, and they get to their tribe and they stay in their tribe and they stay in that culture. And now you have all these divided groups, perfect Machiavelli 101, and now you can conquer them really easy, and because you pit them against each other.
Mm.
Okay. And so this group is going to take this group from you and your rights, and it's all their fault and their problems, and look out for that boogeyman. He's Irish. You know how they don't like so and so, and the blacks don't like this, and the Puerto Ricans don't like that. And that's, in the classroom, that wasn't happening. The kids just wanted to learn, have fun, and meet friends and play. We didn't care about that stuff. We didn't know to care about that stuff. But by golly, we were learning. I was talking to Jolie about this. Fourth grade was beginning of American history, and it was taught all the way to 11th grade. Okay, and the each grade got a little deeper, a little more why, a little deeper into American history, and yeah, American. They're as I've traveled in every state in the union, there's cultures all over this place.
Yeah,
they're uniquely American in the respect for Americanism, that hard work pays off, that you start a job, a business, it'll pay off for you, and you get your own little house and picket fence, and get that American dream. Whether you're in Boston, Baton Rouge, North Dakota, LA, it didn't matter. What it means to be an American is that flag and freedom, and the freedom to do, even though there's a lot of subcultures in America. There's festivals, that you think you're in Switzerland. You go to some towns in America, you think in Switzerland, or you're in Sweden, you're in Germany, they still celebrate the stuff, but they bleed red, white, and blue.
Right.
Okay. They celebrate the heritage, which is great. You have a sense of history. Great. God bless you. By golly, you're American. And that was the challenge for my foster father, who was German, fighting in World War II in Europe. Okay. And let me tell you, okay, there's a cultural challenge for you, right?
Right.
And so as the Germans found out, he was American. He was Big Red One first, and he fought right.
Oh, Big Red One.
Big Red One fought right across. He fought with Terry, if I'm not mistaken, General Terry. He was a whack. They thought Patton was whack job. Major General Terry was nuts.
Wow.
Big
Red One fighting Germans. Yeah,
fighting Germans, and his name was Enders, and he sprachen Sie Deutsch. And he spoke German in the house and spoke German to family members.
Right.
But when time came, he was American, and you didn't mess with this country. And the government was going to set on fighting Nazis and fighting the Japanese, and he was sent to Europe, and he was communications, and fought all the way across North Africa and into Sicily and on the Italian landings. So he was in the thick of it, and it taught me that regardless of whatever's baggage you got back there, this is American.
Sure. I don't think that happens, and it doesn't even have to be that extreme. You know, I listen to these people getting these conversations, and it's like they wouldn't even address that at a smaller level.
No,
Um, like you were talking about, Grandpa saying, you're gonna learn the English language. Well, um, I'd have to dive more into it and present that to you, but I do know that, like in Florida, for instance, they just passed a law, um, I believe that if you're getting a driver's license, it has to be in English.
mm-hmm.
And now we are Florida. I didn't hear that it's if oh my gosh, if this would have happened in like Washington State or Illinois or New York, this would have boom. Yeah, exactly. It would have blew up. But so Florida, we didn't bust out in the riots, but of course I did hear people complaining. Well, I just took the test. I just passed it, and why do I got to do this in English? Like, well, because we speak English here. Like, I'm sorry. And I get the hate. It's funny. I get told I'm the bigot. They see me and they're like, "Shouldn't you be like not okay with this?" And I'm like,
Who's
"Where are
the
you
bigot?
getting where are you getting that sentiment from?" Like, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Because apparently they see my complexion and think I'm supposed to be okay with it. And the sad part is, and I do feel bad, I don't speak really any Spanish. I didn't grow up. You taught me English. So that's just people getting upset about that. That sentiment that Grandpa gave to you is, I don't see it often. Um, we don't the idea of hard work. Well, you take that down to the kids level. I mean, you saw it when you were coaching baseball. Every team everywhere got a trophy at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, at that perspective, I didn't think anything of it. I'm not at a mindset to even think about that. But reflecting back on that, you had this whole young, I don't even know if that spanned all millennials, but being a young millennial, that spanned through all my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And now everyone thinks that they're owed something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the winners, Dad, if you recall, we got slightly bigger trophies. Exactly. So it happens at a smaller level. And I try to point this out with people, and a lot get it, but a lot don't. And it's just baked in. It's just baked into
Yes.
their mindset. And
Yeah. Just like
you
my
know,
mindset was baked in.
right.
Grandpa said, "You will learn. You will master." He didn't say I was going to learn it. I was going to master the English language. Okay,
I
that's
can
a
see
whole
Grandpa
different
doing
level.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Okay.
It's saying it just like that too, yes.
Okay. So I was influenced by that.
Right.
All right. Now you have parents saying, "Little Johnny, just well, he showed up, he tried, so give him the grade that passes." Okay. There's a difference there. Okay. And so we're both, I was, and the little Johnny today is the influence from the parents and the teachers are still happening. It's
Right.
just a different direction for a different result. And I would say that the multiculturalism aspect of it was very damaging, and people knew it was happening because my foster mother, Paul's wife, Thelma, she was an educator and her mom was an educator. And they despise this multiculturalism BS. They saw what was happening. They saw that it was a back door. And the ladies every once in a while would get together at the house, and at the kitchen table they would have talks like we're talking now about what's going on. Hey, what's this new program, what's this new rule policy? The rule is X, but the policy says otherwise. Why have a rule if your policy is not to enforce the rule? Why have the rule? And so this whole thing of forcing people to learn the language, and it's a struggle. Jolie went through that. She moved from Puerto Rico in sixth grade, I think, and she had to learn it all within a few weeks, a couple of months, because grades are coming.
Right.
So, hey, no boo-hoo. Oh, it sucks. It's tough. Yeah. What? Everybody goes through this. And so there's no grind, there's no metal, and there's no I think scripture has it, where we're going to be, the silver is going to be melted, and and refined, and the penny is going to be purified before it's paid. So that's why you go through those aches and pains. That's why you go through those frustrations, to motivate you and say, I'm going to learn the language. I'm going to learn the culture. I'm going to fit in, because I need those tools in order to get to the next level. And
Right.
in America, you determine your next level. And all that's turned away. All that is just showing up is rewarded. And no, productivity is rewarded, and merit is based on your productivity. We are productive people. We produce. That's our cult. That's part of our culture. The hustle. Why are we hustling? Because we got to produce. And if you don't produce, you go hungry. But now we have, as in you're talking Minnesota, you can spend $130 billion to help people not produce. And it's okay, because it ends up in Somalia in suitcases going out of JFK. So a lot's changed. The idea that a country can prosper by taxing working people to pay non-working people to sit on their backsides, it's lunacy. It's never worked. It won't work. It won't work in the future. It's never worked in the past. It's a way to define groups of people, separate them in their tribes, and then pit them against each other. And the politicians do know exactly what they're doing, and then through fear and manipulation, they get more power to tax and waste hundreds of billions of dollars every year. And it's just lunacy. Somebody said, first time I ever heard that phrase, help me make this make sense. I was like, oh my God. I always told Jolie, I just want to get paid a nickel for every time I shake my head. Inside
Right.
of 6 months, I'd own my own island in the Bahamas.
Sure. Yeah.
That,
It, it and you know what? I understand when people say they're, you know, I had this going on, I have this going on, or, you know, I was born into this, but and I'm sure you've heard those things too. And I think at one point the American culture, or aspiring for the American dream, was recognizing the position that you were in and saying, okay, I got to do X, or I got to step away from X in order to reorient myself. because a lot of these people online, they just start whining and complaining, or they start, well, it's not fair that this is happening or this is happening, or I grew up in a family that didn't have this, and it's like, well, that was spread all throughout the nation. And if that was so bad, how is it that some people made it through?
Right. See, that's a great question. How is your deficiency in X, Y, and
Sure.
Z a crutch? Okay. And so when Jolie and Titi Millie were visiting in Florida a number of years ago, you were real little. That's when she came over with Giancarlo and Debbie. There's that picture we have of everybody together.
Right.
Um, we were having a lunch, and I remember specifically Millie asking me, "So how did you make it through, and not somebody else?" Because I was in charge of so much equipment and stuff for MCI and the Orlando Junction, and all the fiber networks there in Central Florida, and all this stuff. And I just said I didn't use it as a crutch.
Right.
Other people use it as a crutch. Oh, woe is me, and they have their pity party. Life sucks. My father spanked me when I was 9 years old, and I couldn't watch, Space Ghost, and now I'm traumatized, and I suffer anxieties and stuff like that. And I grew up in a generation that you rub dirt into it, and you got pissed at your dad or your mom or whatever, but you kept it inside because 4'11" mom would whip out that master belt out, leather belt, and tear into you, and there was no child protection services coming.
Right.
Okay, okay? So when you home by the time the street lights came on, you better be home.
Right.
There wasn't, oh well, he kind of made it on time. There no. So people call that strict. Well, it's about your own self-respect, so you can grow as a human being and learn to give respect to others. But it's got to
Right.
start here. If you're lazy and don't want to do anything, then you are burying your own self-respect. And these
Sure.
things aren't taught. It's just not taught. The idea that I would be sitting in my father's house at 35 years old, sitting in the basement, whining and complaining on Facebook or TikTok or what, that doesn't compute,
No.
you know.
Right.
And you take people who were born with infirmities, okay, that were born with real issues, and they grow up to be doctors and lawyers and accountants and builders and architects, and they overcome what's perceived to be a challenge or a handicap or whatever you want to call it, and they don't use it as a crutch.
Right.
I stop here at this level. I may fill in the blank, and that label gets stamped on me. And now you got to treat me according to the label, my self-approved label that I tattooed to my forehead. And
Right.
most of those labels, vast majority are really, if you re-scramble the letters, they say loser.
Gotcha.
Because we all have suffered. We all go through things
Sure.
and traumas and stuff like that. And people, I was just telling this to Jolie. People talk to me as Joe, the way you grew up in Brooklyn and foster care and the street crime, and I really had it bad. I knew people who had it a whole lot worse. So
Right.
I'm not going to complain. No. And I'm going to use that for motivation to get up and out. And I did. I got to get up and go out and serve our country and traveled to 27 countries and seen every state in the union. And, this is an adventure, what a learning exercise has been, because you really learn when you travel and meet people and have to deal with people and in different languages and cultures and all that stuff. And I didn't take it as a woe is me. Oh, I'm here. I can't make it. Oh, well, have my pity party. Oh, okay. There's a challenge. Now what? Well, you got to overcome the challenge.
Right.
And all I ever tried to do with you and your brothers is give you the skills and the mindset that when you see the challenge, you figure it out, overcome it, and move on. Because there's always going to be a challenge.
Of
As
course.
soon as you solve one, next corner, around the corner is the next one.
Yeah.
Life is hard, right?
Yeah, it is. And that's just it's just I get on the platforms and I just when I hear people talk about it, and I always acknowledge them saying and I'd say yes, of course you're going through this, but that doesn't mean like the buck stops there. Like it doesn't just stop there. Like you can choose to make it your holding place. It's almost like people are like opening the jail cell, stepping in it, and the door's still open. It's like you
Oh,
can choose
absolutely.
to leave that,
Weird.
and it's hard.
Very
I
astute.
get it.
That's
But
exactly what's happening.
it, um, but I just I don't. I think my biggest thing is I find it so hard because you've taught me to appreciate the United States, what its foundation was, what its standing morals and the culture that it permeates and how it was designed to be. And it's just you watch it and it's just fizzling away. I do see some resurgence. I do think that there is new cultural pushes for the affirmation of hardworking, the
Mhm.
hardworking American. I think that's just why it's so heated right now. We're at like this right now because
Oh, yeah.
we fostered the monster that
Yeah.
is complacency of the American people,
Mhm.
and that's now battling with a rising, newly revived status of Americans who are like, you know what, we've had enough of this.
Mhm.
Um, and it's just funny to watch because you and I are on that side, and we're watching those who are saying, no, we're going to be complacent, we're going to complain, we're going to be victims, we're going to be professional victims because we're going to get paid
Yes.
to protest. We're
Yeah.
going to we're going to settle in our woes, and they call us crazy for saying, well,
Yeah.
we're crazy for saying, I get it. You're not wrong for having an issue. I'm not even the smallest issues. I'm not saying it's a non-issue, but you're calling me crazy because I'm telling you it's possible to work yourself out of it. Like I think what's nuts is I would love to see uh like grandpa with you and then like your friends and their parents, if you just fast forward them to this time but with the same mentality, I would like to see how they would react because like one of the purest things, and people hate when I bring this up, it's like they talk about oh, i'm 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 not able to hold a job and I can't afford my rent and I'm only getting welfare right now and I got SNAP. And then they're going, hey, by the way, oh, look, my iPhone 17's ringing. 1 second. And I just wish I could take you and grandpa, your friends and their parents, and just fast forward and go, what do you think of this?
I see that. I see that in a family. I see that in friends, sometimes in neighbors. Um, we have it so good. I used to upset your grandmother, God bless her, up in Connecticut. And here's what I used to say. Think I told her last time I was with her. She was talking about the nuttiness of the world. I don't understand this, Joe, and she was questioning her own sanity. And
Okay.
and that's the clue when
Right.
you when you're am I seeing what I'm seeing? Is this making sense? That's the proof you're being gaslit. Okay. And so I said, Mom, we have the fattest poor people on the planet. Help me make that sense. It's impossible. Yolanda and I were up in northern Pennsylvania, and on the newspaper front page, there was this big survey and all this stuff in Pennsylvania and in Towanda, I think it was. And it was the average family of four getting on full benefits is a salary of $55,000 a year. Okay. That puts you in like the upper 8% globally.
Okay.
Okay, you
Yeah.
got to put things in perspective.
Right.
We've got it so well. A full benefit ride in welfare for a family of four is in the top 10% globally. And we invent these problems. Okay, and then we institutionalize the problem. So the next generation, now they know the game. Okay, all I have to do is this, and I get a check. Yeah, cool. So what you see in Somalia is just at a higher level. The game is the same.
Mm.
It's exactly the same. It's just a lot more zeros and commas.
Sure.
But the game is the same. It's the game, the system, and do what it is that you want to do at your convenience, rather than earn your way through the system and not at the taxpayer's expense. So yeah, this would be it's a culture clash, right? So there was an experiment done about 10 years ago, and somebody quoted John F. Kennedy to college students, and they all called the reporter doing this survey. They said, well, somebody like that is a right-wing fascist. And they were quoting John F. Kennedy.
Oh my God.
Because he epitomized right-wing fascism for sure.
You got to send me that. I want to check that out.
Yeah, that was I don't know which campus it was. Now this was, I think, the same campus where they could not shade in on a global map the country of China.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those videos where it's
Yeah,
like, hey,
it's pathetic.
who are the Axis powers of World War II? Canada.
It's pathetic. Yeah. The one of the more famous, you could probably still, now that YouTube's out, it's all over YouTube. You can download or see the one with Ilhan Omar, where a business lady is at a congressional hearing and explaining that when a person gets demoted, their pay gets demoted, and she was stupefied by that. What do you mean their pay gets reduced? Yeah, and the look on the lady's face, like, I'm explaining this to a U.S. Congresswoman. Yeah, if you reorganize and you take a lesser job, your pay is to that lesser job. You don't keep the high salary. And she was beside herself, like, well, that's not fair. We got to do something about that.
Yeah.
So, I'll give anybody at one time or another say something stupid. I've said things, and as soon as the words are leaving, I want to grab them and come back out. But when you want to go on live TV at a congressional hearing and tell the whole world you're a flippin' idiot,
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, the clash is real. The culture clash is real. You can look up we heard this when I was growing up, the culture wars. And it was, when I was growing up, you didn't trust anybody over 30. Certainly not anybody from the government. Okay.
Right.
Those same people are telling you that Hamas is the good guys, and we have no business helping Iranians free their the Persian people from Iran from the brought in Shiite Muslim Arabs. So you everything is superficial. There's no depth. You can't,
Right.
because as soon as you start to dig, their worldview starts to crumble because it's not based on facts. It's not based on reality. And worse, you call these facts propaganda, and it's like, oh, the sky is blue.
Well, let's touch on that. I'm actually curious because you know, it is new. We've definitely never spoken about this before. So we're
Mm,
at an interesting point politically and culturally, and I hear
mm.
this all the time because Trump coined, well, he didn't coin it, I don't believe, but the phrase, America first. He at least coined it for his campaign,
Sure.
his third time running for his second term. It's America first, and everyone's always like, he said no new wars. He promised that.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious because I'm not I don't call myself MAGA. I do call myself a fairly strong Trump supporter. I have my critiques of him, so I'm not just
Yeah.
I have my I'm not blind to the mistakes. The DOJ is atrocious, but that's another topic. Um,
Whew.
so Iran, okay.
Iran.
Now,
Man.
to be fair with Trump, and people aren't picking this up, that Trump's been saying Iran needs to be dealt with, and I don't mean like whether it was diplomacy. I'm not saying it was specifically diplomacy or militarily, but he's been saying this for like 15 years.
Yep.
There's evidence of that. There's
Yeah, he's been
interviews,
very consistent.
and he's been consistent on it. So this almost played out like Venezuela in the lead up.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we're asking to sit down. We are sitting down. We're doing this. Okay, you're messing up. I'm telling you, you better knock it off. You better knock it off. And he's somebody that I've recognized draws a red line and means the red line. This isn't the Obama with Hillary Clinton Secretary of State red line with Russia. Don't cross this line. Oh, you crossed it. Well, we drew a line, you crossed it, It's not that. So anyways, my perspective and what I've argued towards people is, and I think Michael Knowles is where I heard this specific point, is that Trump put himself in a position where he's at a fork. Either the left way is, this is like Venezuela. Iran is not Venezuela. Venezuela, the way that country's set up, the politically, geographically, that was definitely an in and out. This is not an in and out case.
No.
But the one way in the fork is he handles it. It gets done within a reasonable manner to the point where the actual people are able to decide, and hopefully they decide correctly. He's privy to that information, so hopefully multiple nations are curated into this decision. Now the other direction in the fork is he put himself in a Iraq 2.0.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting a lot of heat that this is not America first. And you just made a claim about, helping the Iranian people, specifically with the Persians that are there. So kind of break down to me what you thought about this.
Yeah.
Is it America first, or do you actually believe like, we're playing in business, obviously, that we shouldn't be playing? What is your take?
Well, we certainly had America last policy dealing with Iran the last 7 years.
Okay.
We've lost hundreds, if not thousands, of servicemen and civilians around the world over the last 47 years at the hands, directly or through the surrogates, proxies of Iran. And they boldly boasted of this. So this is not a conspiracy stuff that you can research going back 47 years all the killings and murders and bombs and terrorist activities supported by Iran that they proudly boasted. Okay. And so, in dealing with them, um, we failed to deal with them for two reasons that I could see. First of all, it was our idiotic deep state that put the original Khomeini in there, with the help of the European deep state, and he came in as some kind of moderate. And as the Iranian people found out, especially the liberal and socialist folks in society, politically liberals, um, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is what their Quran tells them to do. It's okay to lie if you promote Allah. Okay. Um, so the America First agenda is first about going to a country when you have the ability to smack them upside the head and say enough's enough. I don't want more servicemen to die. I don't want American citizens targeted around the world. I don't want our friends doing business with Americans being targeted by you people anymore. Enough's enough. So in that respect is most definitely America First.
Sure.
Now, to carry it out is the details. Devil's in the details. A large country across halfway around the world, not Venezuela. The process is basically the same, but what I think I visibly see the failure of, and maybe I'm premature, but the shadow government to come in is not ready. And so I'm at a loss as why that is. Why isn't the soon to be government, we call that a shadow government.
Sure.
They're the next up in line. So how is that not structured and ready? I'm not privy to it all, but just from the simple perspective of keeping an eye on different foreign news outlets and stuff, I don't really see it. So for me, it's not that it's not America First. I have a problem with execution, because the first round, most necessary, and you're military, it's the 3 C's: command, control, and communications. Got to take that out first. That's American military culture and all planning, the C3. And so that's first. Okay, well, they took out the old man, and they took out 30, 40 of the top deputies and ministers and generals and whatnot. So good first round. Okay. However, they had some sophisticated weapons, and so the only question is the X factor, and you never know how a cornered rat is going to behave. So you got to assume the worst. So it looks like the Middle Eastern countries across the sea there were prepared. They shot down virtually all the missiles and stuff like that, but few got through. So there's some damage there, loss of life, and I understand some Americans loss of life.
It's being reported we did lose a couple,
and that always hurts. But as I taught you, and you said you were going to go to the army, the purpose of the military is to kill people and destroy property, and you will be doing it not for the American people directly, but for a government who will be using you to exact a policy.
Sure.
And that is where we're at. So the military is enforcing a policy. I believe, personally, I was yesterday, this morning, I said the best thing that ever happened to the mullahs is I wasn't president, because this would have been over with 30 years, 40 years ago.
Oh my
You
god.
know, I'm just sorry. It's the street Brooklyn comes out and okay, you want to hurt my people? I mean, just let us walk down the street and somebody want to start something with a family. That's just 10 of us are walking to the theater and
Sure.
somebody starts something with my family. You think I'm just gonna sit there?
Right.
No, we're gonna end this. Now, to what level is whatever level's needed, but I'm gonna make sure that your grandson, Habib, Mr. Mullah, when he's sitting at the table and he's upset, them crazy Americans I hate, I want his father smacking the crap out of him, saying, "Don't say that. Don't upset the Americans." Because if we're going to be the big dog of the world, you got to act like the big dog of the world.
Right.
And when for 47 years these people have been killing our servicemen, bombing military bases, ships, civilians, contractors, our friends working with our military, and we do nothing. We're going to get the FBI to investigate and see if we can make some arrests. No, 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 no. I push buttons. No. You want to see justice? You want to meet your 72 virgins? Okay, I got an idea. And so here's how I would handle it, and it'd be over with.
Sure.
I'm gonna take a major city in Iran. Okay, just a little one, and I'll put a webcam on it. Everybody in the world is going to be able to see this webcam on this major city in Iran, and say at 12 o'clock, if any of the mullahs and generals are still there from the IRGC, the Islamic Republican Guard, if they haven't folded their tents and left the country at 12 o'clock, I'm going to give them 24, 48 hours. That city's going to glow in the flipping dark.
Right.
Be back. Okay.
Right.
So Joe, would you do that? If I'm going to be the big dog, I'm going to act like the big dog. Come 48 hours, 72 hours, whatever, how much time you need. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I know there's some gas rationing. I know there's some car parts. You may take a few minutes to get to the border. Okay. I'll give you a week. Whatever that red line is, it's over. And then you lose your city. Okay. Did you get the message? That's horrible, Joe. Yes, because for the next 100 years, I guarantee you nobody's going to be picking off U.S. servicemen. Nobody's going to be bombing our ships.
Right.
Okay. I'm not Navy, but there's an old saying, don't F with our ships. Goes back to the Barbary days.
Right.
Well,
to that point there. So I guess two questions though. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with that. Two questions on it. So like the first thing would be and I hear people talk about this too. So like when this all started off and took off, the deep conversations began to happen. So two questions on your point is, first off, I hear a lot about, well, the reason why the way they are is what the U.S. was doing prior to, was it 79, when new leadership came in. They were doing all sorts of things. The CIA was allegedly involved in arming certain groups and this and that. So it's because of what we've been doing, meddling over there, that even before this new leadership came in, they were already pissed with the U.S. So that's what I hear. And then number two is, we see a lot of people protesting. So even if you were to go to that stream and make that threat, or anything else in between, down to the simplest thing you could do with them, the people seem to have been outgunned. they didn't have the resources to even help push these people out. It like specifically the people of Iran without any help themselves. So
Yeah, there's no
yeah,
shadow
go ahead.
government.
Yeah, so tackle those two things if you don't
Okay,
mind.
so first of all, in geopolitics, you got to understand something. You're not going to have the most perfect friends. We would like that. Okay, but it's not real, and this is the problem with American liberalism, socialism, progressivism. It's a mental disorder. They don't live in the real world, and the real world is, hey, he's okay, he's doing business with it. What happened was he got screwed over by the deep state, and the Shah of Iran said, okay, I'm going to control things more my way. And he nationalized oil and did a couple other things. Well, the deep state didn't like that. CIA didn't like that. That's all that is. He was taken out. Now, he was suffering bad health at the time.
Sure.
Okay. But the Shah of Iran was at that time the legitimate government. Was he a saint? I wouldn't think so. Okay. While this is going on, Nixon's crossing the border of Cambodia and bombing the crap out of Cambodians, even though he told the people we weren't. So in geopolitics, you have to do what works and what's best for your friendship long term. And instead, the CIA running the government, not the US representatives, not the representative the American people, the deep state ran them out and said, oh, we're going to put this guy. He's a moderate. He'll be all right. It is, we're paying for that for 47 years. The people who have blood on their hands is the American CIA and the French and British intelligence. They've caused this. And I tell people all the time, I'm gonna say something you probably never heard. The British are not our friends.
Ooh. Okay.
We get along. We have a common language, common history. We've helped each other. Yes. They are certainly not America first. They are City of London first. They are owned and operated, and the Crown is owned and operated by the City of London and their financiers. And they're into the globalists and the WEF and all that crap. They have conned since the Truman days in America into this whole global stuff. We are always Western Hemisphere. Keep to our coast. You guys kill each other. You've been doing that for 3,000 years. Continue on. We got our gig here in the Western Hemisphere. Trump's going back to that. Oh, we're reducing our status in the world. Great. We weren't supposed to have that status in the first place. It's very expensive. It costs your children and their grandchildren, who knows what the value of their labor, to pay the tax bill off of that. Okay? So this is, you got to take a step back and look at the map and understand. They're Persians. The reason Israel's here is helping them is because they have a biblical bond. It was the Persian king that brought the Jews back to Jerusalem and the temple and rebuilt the temple. Okay? This goes back a couple thousand years plus. Okay? And Israel's never forgotten that. It is the Arab Muslims that were imported with Khomeini. It is the current Muslims in Hamas and Hezbollah and Syria and ISIS that were paid by the regime of Iran currently to come in and put down the rebellion. Okay, you want to see tyranny? When the monarch or whoever's in charge hires foreigners, there's your sign. Okay? There's your sign. Okay, so yeah, Shah wasn't a saint. He had a secret police, and because no matter what government you're in, there's always somebody looking to tear it down.
Right.
We have the Secret Service, we have the FBI. We have our blood on our hands. We still have 80 people in Waco who were killed and nobody's been held to account. Men, women, and children burned, killed, and murdered and burned down in Waco, Texas. Ruby Ridge. We have other we're not saints either. So let's be real. If we want to stop the killing and attacks of America and its and from Iran and its proxies, you got to punch them in the face, and not just punch them in the face to knock them down, but just to make sure they never gets back up. And you never let your enemy off the floor. It looks good in movies. Come on, get off there. We'll fight some more. No, I knock you down. I'm from Brooklyn. I knock you down. It's over. They're going to be scraping their fingernails, pulling me off of you because I'm going to make sure you're not coming off. Right. You never give somebody a second chance who wants you dead. They want us dead. They don't want us taken down a notch. That's the Europeans because they're flaky. Okay. Right. I got other words for them, but just in case you share this, they're wussies. Let's call it that.
That's probably as tame as you can make
it. Tame as I can make it. Okay. They fight behind closed doors, they're the traditional way. But these people are stuck in the 14th century and want us dead, both culturally and religiously. They tell you. And we've been importing them the last 40, 50 years. They're preaching the same stuff over there, here in the United States, in Texas and Dearborn and mosques all around the country. We imported that stuff. And they want us dead. Now, that's pretty severe. Right. That is kind of final. So, yeah, America first. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I just think it probably could have been better executed because we should have seen the uprising already with materiel, with a few guns. We should have already seen some armed units taking, had we had blown up a couple of barracks and seen the different Iranian flag flying over, okay, that's proof enough to show me, okay, sure. They have people on the ground who are going to physically take it over. And that's what Trump warned. He told the people, you are the boots on the ground. You've got to do this. Yeah. And no, it's not going to be easy, but it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Where's the arms going to? Because they have to go to the police precincts. First, police, you're loyal to your community or not? Oh no, we're good. When we went to Iraq, there's plenty of videos of the Iraqi war. When we took over Baghdad, the police ran the show at first. They know what's going on. And we didn't run them out. Well, we got to de-Ba'athify them, get them out of political parties. No. You just got to give them a new hierarchy to respond to and follow orders. That's all you got to give them. They'll keep the peace local. They'll keep the shops from being destroyed and burned and keep the peace in the community. They just got to answer to a new person that's going to say, we're law and order and we're not going to do stupid stuff. Right. So that's my 2 points. I think, Shah was not a saint. Oh, get over it. Neither are we. Neither Germans, the Japanese. No. There's no government saints here. Sure. Not happening. And very much American first, because I unlike many people that you're probably talking to at TikTok, um, I have a memory. I I lived through it a lot of that time. Your Uncle Pete was was Fleet Marine on the Saipan in the Gulf, ready to go. Okay, so it was
Right.
very real. That was very real for our family. Okay, so um, I want them gone. I want that regime gone. I want the free Persians running their own country, and the Arab Muslim Shiite Muslims gone.
Right. Yeah, we just I guess we gotta hope because I think based off of track record, especially in the second term right now, um Trump, the dynamic with Trump, Rubio, and Hegseth, they seem to be foreign policy wise, they seem very in lockstep right now. And my impression is um based off of just evidence of 1 year plus some change with this second term, I
Mm-hmm.
have hope that this is something that's going to end um, rather quickly in terms of what we've experienced in the past. But we can only pray and hope, right?
Right. Yeah. From your lips to God's ears, man. It broke my heart about the servicemen who died. Civilians who were just trying to make a buck, trying to get through life, and then a couple missiles got through.
Right.
But this is the real world. It's evil world. It's a hard world, and we got to recognize that. And they're showing you, Muslim world, their true colors. This is Ramadan. We don't fight or follow Muslims. Really? Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, Dad, I appreciate you getting on and doing this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've already having some fun with this, minus the technical difficulties, but that's the fun of it, right? We're going to grow with
Oh
this.
yeah.
Um, listen, everyone, if you guys enjoyed the content here, please give a like, subscribe. I'm gonna have the YouTube channel set up, and then I'm gonna be moving this to other platforms so that way more people can reach this. The biggest goal, and you guys have seen it during the video, was ask your parents. I know towards the later part of the conversation, we got into some foreign policy stuff. This is the conversations I have with my dad. We go all over the place with stuff.
Everywhere.
Um, the each episode will have its own theme, but reflect back on what we talked about because Dad grew up in New York and had a stint in West Virginia. But that's
Ain't been
completely
right since.
and all you guys are gonna have your own story. You know, Dad's gonna be
Yep.
different from you guys
Absolutely.
in California, in Illinois, in North Dakota, Texas. You guys are gonna have your own perspective. Today we talked about the American culture, and we both believe highly in an American culture and achieving an American dream. So we hope the best for everyone out there. But yeah, like, subscribe, and leave us the comments because I think we'd both like to engage with your guys' thoughts. So, Dad, anything else before we take off?
No, I appreciate the talks we've had in the past. I appreciate you. Like I gave you a job to do. So put your dad to work as you grow, and I'm not telling you what to do, just giving you a different perspective, giving you a little guidance, maybe. And I hope all folks in your age group, especially, are doing that with their parents. Hey, what do you think about these things? That's the best. That communication, and love it, and just keep after it, keep learning, keep growing. A phrase I heard, and I'll end it with this: stay curious. Just stay curious, ask good questions, and instead of tell people what to think on TikTok, ask them, how does that work? How does that work? What
Right.
does that look like? And you'll see they're pull a muscle in their head. So if they have gray hair, ask them for their opinion. You may not like it, you may not agree with it, but learn.
Right.
Me and Grandpa, we butted heads on a few things, but we learned.
Cool. Yeah, and trust me, I saw it too. So from time to time.
Yeah, yeah.
But all right, Dad, we'll see you next week. Love you, Dad.
Love you, Moss. You have a great night. Love up on our babies, and you will let me know when you need to ask Dad something.
Will do. Take care.
All right. God bless. See ya.